Hey Truth Seekers, this is Carolyn. We're going to be doing a deck profile of the new Red Letter Day and Crosstrainers mashup deck that I have. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our Truth Seeker. I went ahead and chose to do Sadie from Crosstrainers just because I feel like she is still one of the best out there, especially with the type of play style that I like to do. So she is absolutely going to be my Truth Seeker of all time. We run 3 love cards, as again, this is a love and hope deck. So I run 3 of each. And then also because I never quite know what I'm going to run into and when I'm going to run into it, I also run 3 prayer as well, because it can be either or. There is something to be said about running more hope cards in this deck, just due to some of the cost. So love does not shuffle or discard any of their power cards, but hope shuffles it back into your deck. So it could be better to run more of these if you run a dual color deck, but if you have access to prayer, I don't feel like that's necessarily necessary. So I keep those. I'm going to start off with my cities. So I have Scoffish first. Your opponent cannot activate any faith. I run Zapper King to where you cannot play level 1s from your hand. I also run Merkay from the Red Letter Day stuff to where your opponent cannot draw more than 2 cards. I also run Globster. He is actually particularly rude, and he is extremely repulsive because you have to discard your card before you even draw. Your opponent has to. Waspits is pretty great. It removes completely a single card from your opponent's discard pile. It's just gone forever. Grump Roast. As long as the city remains active, your opponent can have no more than 3 Animo in their small group. He's pretty great. And we have Hookworm. Everything costs 1 extra universal to be activated. And then finally, as a mega, I run Scorch because he's big and he's pretty. That's literally the only reason I chose Scorch over anything else. The reason why I play so many Cinnies in my deck is just for the fact that I seemingly don't run into them when I need to. So having more in there is great. You don't want to have too many in your deck, or you're not going to have enough room for your Virtuous Animo. You're not going to run into him as often, and it's going to be harder to win by points. Next, we have our story cards. So we have Hidden Treasure. Place 1 card from your hand at the bottom of your deck, and if you do, you may draw 3 cards. This is great if you use other cards to stack your deck specifically. Mustard Seed is similar to Sycamore Tree from the original game, but I like Mustard Seed. Discarding 2 cards from your hand. Search your deck for up to 2 growth stages for an Animo that's in your small group and grow the Animo. If you don't have 2 cards to discard, you can't use this one. Fishing Nets. You get to draw 2 cards. If this is the last card that was in your hand, you get to draw 4 instead. And then finally, we have the Rich Fool, which is you draw the bottom 3 cards of your deck. I specifically only run 4 story cards because you can't use a story card on your first turn. And if you play first.
Actually, that one you can't use your Truth Seeker's ability. So.
Touche.
Yep.
Braining. Anyway. I run 4 because I don't usually use one my first turn. And I would rather have room for Animo.
Yep. Your Animos mostly fill up your story card spots where you would need them.
Yeah. I run the Breastplate of Righteousness, and I run Gold for similar purposes. It's having the power cards out there when I need them and the right power cards. Gold eliminates the need to shuffle it back into my deck, so I actually have it out there and still useful. And this one changes my cost. So if it is a hope, it is now universal. If it is anything else, it is now hope. I also run the Tools of the Trade here. I run 2 sets of this because it gives my love Animo more points. And more points is always good. And then I also run a single hindrance card because Millstone is busted. This card is from Red Letter Day, and the player facing the Cine to whom this card is attached can only activate 1 Animo per turn while the Cine is active, and this now takes the ability, this overrides any ability that the Cine has already. So it's kind of a catch-22, but if it doesn't have an ability...
Yeah, because it's not required to have an ability. It's just if it does, it gets overridden.
Right. Going into Animo, we're going to start with Hope. I'm going to start with my big boy here, Conqueror Ultra. I absolutely love him. Him attached with gold or some of the other cards, he does have a shuffle feature on 2 of his power costs. So keep that in mind if you're running multiple cards that have a shuffle cost in them. We have Socro, level 1. I run 2 of these. When this card is played from your hand into your small group, you may draw 1 card. On top of that, I have 2 Socro level 2. When this card is played from your hand to grow Socro level 1, you may shuffle your hand back into your deck and draw 5 cards. He's just fantastic.
I mean, he's a 9 for 2. It's great.
Yeah, he's a 9 for 2.
And plus the draw power is just amazing.
Yeah. I run Percy, level 1. I run 2 of him. When this card is played from your hand into your small group, you may look at the top 5 cards of your deck, take 1, and return the rest in any order. He grows into Percy level 2, which you search your deck for any 2 cards and place them in your hand. That is an action that it grows on top of. I do only run 1 of him because we don't have any more. And also, this is not his finalized art, but he still looks really cool.
Look, it's a shiny Percy level 2.
Next, we have Oinkan. I did update this deck to only run 1 copy of Oinkan instead of the 2 that I had in my other deck. He's just great. So his level 2 action searches my deck for 2 hope power and puts them immediately into my power pool. He is really great to run with some of the other cards in the deck that are shuffling things back, whatnot. He's great to get those back. I run 2 Professor, and his action allows you to go get 2 level 1 Animo excluding Ultras and put them into your small group, which can be used in that same score phase as long as you have the available power for that. So he is pretty great. I run 3 Aurora because I happen to really like the action on this, as well as it is a 1 for 4. And I don't always have the extra power to run things. And so Aurora is fantastic because if this card is in your small group, it can provide 1 hope power during your score phase as long as you don't activate this one in the same one. So, like, you could totally use Professor, go grab 2 Auroras, use 1 to pay for the other one, and get 4 more points.
I didn't think of that. That's great. Like, see, back in step 1, you used Gratify just because it was a 1 for 4.
Exactly. I like my 1 for 4s. I use quite a bit of those. Moving on to love, we have our big boy, Agapesaur. Again, noticing that Agapesaur does not have a shuffle feature. Agapesaur's just great. So we have our dragon and dinosaur over here that are buddies. I have 1 Servidude from Crosstrainers. I like the ability on this Servidude quite a bit. Once per turn, for any of your Faith, Hope, or Holy Spirit Animo, you can draw a card while it sits in your small group. So.
Also, you don't know about this. This is an aesthetically pleasing thing. Right now, the glare that is being recorded on Conqueror, he's arranged where his eyes are lit up and like he's all like it's yeah.
So I use the 1 Servidude. I have 2 Agapesaur level 1s. I will use the ability on Agapesaur level 1. I just do it rarely. Mainly what I'm doing is I'm waiting for Agapesaur level 2. And and that ability. I have used the ability on Agapesaur level 1 to go get my Agapesaur level 2 in the past if I can't get it any other way.
Like it just feels.
It's just fantastic.
And it just feels bad when you're sitting there in your Conqueror Ultra and you're like, I can't use you yet.
Yeah,
and you have to discard
really
it just to actually play your turn.
Yeah, it feels really bad. So as long as this card is active in your small group, any Cine that's revealed to you also has the weakness of Agapesaur. So basically, memorize this verse, and then you're good. So I love my Agapesaur. I run 3 Fairly, mainly because of that fellowship bonus, because it can be activated as long as it's activated in the same turn as anything else. You now get the fellowship bonus, which is fantastic. They're actually going to be adding a couple more cards with a similar feature in Red Letter Day. Next we have Saltini, level 1 from Red Letter Day. And mainly I run this one specifically instead of the other Saltinis because of the feature on Saltini level 2. When played to grow Saltini level 1, return your active Cine to the hand of the player that revealed it to you. And just look at that artwork, bruh. This is cute. Also looking at, so on the weakness side of things, because technically I could grow this Saltini level 2 on top of this Saltini level 1. That doesn't matter.
Has same virtue points,
it's same virtue points and same cost, but that Bible verse is different, and this one is shorter. So that's something to keep in mind when you're running multiple cards or cards have been rebooted. That's something to look into. Sparcube was a similar way. Conqueror also, from Series 1 to Series 2. The verse is a lot shorter. And then, why is it spicy? Quillo level 2. So Quillo is from Red Letter Day. Quillo is just fantastic. The action on it is great. That's why one of the reasons I run it. But I also run it because Quillo level 1 in Red Letter Day is going to be one of a few cards that now will have a level 2 counterpart in every single other color. So I will also be running the Hope Quillo, just in case, on the new stuff. I believe it has an ability on it as well. But I don't remember that one off the top of my head. But, like, being able to grow into anything is just fantastic. And again, it's a 1 for 3. If I need it, it's a 1 for 3. This one's a 1 for 4, which, cool. But the action is fantastic.
I would also like to point out that if we had at least one more of these Love Quillos, you'd probably run that right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, moving into our universal ones that I have in this deck. Again, I have the 2 Quillo to grow into my other one. And then finally, I have the Lion. I have Mercifier because Mercifier is just fantastic. So this deck is very, very heavy on the love and hope. It's very equal between the two. Typically something that you'll run into when you have multiple colors in a deck. You're going to have like a primary color and then like a secondary booster color. In love and hope, they're very, very equal. And so I run them very equally as well. And like when you have that one turn, when you get to send out both your ultras, it feels really good.
And then...
So, yeah. It just feels really good.
Explain to them the relation between Fairly and Mercifier. Because that was important in our last game. Because of his ability.
Yes. Yes. I was very confused for a second. Yes, so Mercifier's ability is if this card is in your small group, you may choose to swap it with a level 1 animal from your deck with a virtue point of 7 or less. So you're not going to be able to grab ultras with this because their virtue points are always more than 7. But the fun fact is so this costs 2 of anything. But you can go use it to grab Fairly because it has a virtue point cost of 4. But it does have a specific love cost over here. However, again, if you're going to be activating it in the same turn as anything else, you're getting 8 points for the same cost. And so being 1 more point literally can win you the game. It can defeat a Cine, whereas 7 may not. So keeping that in mind, that is a very special relationship to keep in mind. If you are not going to be able to activate anything else, just play your Immersive Fire. Because you would rather get the 7 points than the 4, but if you're playing more than one, you'd rather get 8 points than 7.
Yep.
So,
all right.
Again, that is my Sadie Love and Hope deck of Red Letter Day and Crosstrainers.
Alrighty. So in the meanwhile, True Seekers, keep learning virtues and defeating cities.